I know that if you can get yourself into that dream state, into that vision state of what's possible for you, and you can tap into that unlimited feeling and actually match up with that frequency, then you 100% can create it inside of your reality. Activate your energetic body in a whole new way and elevate your entire experience. So first, let me just tell you a little bit about how I got interested in meditation. I started meditating over 20 years ago, and I will tell you that I have been meditating ever since, and I have not stopped. And I first got interested in meditation because I had a couple friends when I was living in San Francisco at that time who were going to different meditation centers, and they would maybe go like on a Sunday and listen to a message and then meditate. And so I did that a couple times with friends of mine and maybe had meditated, 30 minutes of time. And never really more than that, and found it very difficult to sit still and to quiet my mind. And my legs would go numb, and I would be like super uncomfortable in my body. And I don't know if you've ever had that experience meditating, but that was kind of my first experience meditating. And I thought, I want to do this because it does feel good, and I do sink into my body and I get into a different space, but it's not easy. And it wasn't easy because my mind was like a raging rapid of thoughts. And then I found myself in a job in my late 20s. I was about 25, and I was working in a consulting job, and I was like working all the time. I mean, all the time. I would get there around 7 a.m. I would take the bus from my house. I'd get there early, and then I would work until like way past dinner, because that's just sort of the culture of that place and what was going on. And I was working on projects where I was building these massive Excel spreadsheets. And I remember I would take a cab home, sometimes at like 9 or 10 o'clock at night. They would drop me off, and then I would go to bed only to wake up and do the same thing again the next morning. And all night long, I would have these crazy dreams where I would like literally be like working out equations in my mind and figuring out like pieces of the spreadsheet, because I was so entrenched in that inside of my work that I couldn't get out of it. And I don't know if you've ever had this experience where maybe you have something that's going on in your mind where you just keep looping it over and over and over, and, like replaying it and trying to figure it out. And then it starts to creep into your dreams, and you've got this like tension and stress feeling. If anybody's ever been there, let me know, because I was definitely in that space. And I was so stressed out that I was starting to get like an eye tick, where like literally like my eye muscle was going bananas because I was so exhausted and, just in that stress state. And I remember thinking to myself, like, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing, right? Like this is not how life is supposed to be going. And I'm like 25 years old, and like, what am I doing? And I'm not actually doing work that I want to be doing. And I had joined that consulting firm because I really thought I was going to be working with organizations and helping people like, reach their maximum potential. Like I was a total idealist, and I wasn't doing any of that. And frankly, like there wasn't a whole lot that was amazing about my life at that point. It was, really kind of in a stuck state, trying to like figure out what was next. I was at one of those turning points. And so I had a friend who was going to a meditation retreat, and I was like, I'm going to go do that too. And so I looked it up, and I remember I wrote an essay and I applied for a scholarship because I didn't have any money at that point. And I decided that I was going to win that scholarship, and I was going to take myself to the mountains of Colorado, and I was going to meditate. And literally I had meditated maybe 30 minutes. I had no idea what I was getting into. Lo and behold, I won the scholarship. And I subletted my apartment, and I drove myself out to the mountains of Colorado, kind of on the border of Wyoming. And I went to this incredible natural center. It was called the Shambhala Institute or something like that, Rocky Mountain Shambhala Center. It was based on a Buddhist meditation style. I wasn't Buddhist, but I went for it. And I did what was called a datun, which is a month-long meditation retreat. And we would literally start the week in silence. We would meditate probably 10 to 11 hours a day. We were inside a tent, like on a platform, and we all had little meditation cushions that we would sit on. And sometimes there would be a little bit of a lecture. We even ate in a very specific way where we would eat with very specific bowls and spoons. And it was all about a meditative practice. Even the eating was meditative. And we had chores and things that we had to do to clean up and keep the space clean. And I slept in a tent that was a platform, and then a tent, and there were bathrooms and showers and all that. But it was outside, and I would say it was advanced camping. And we had a communal space that we could gather to, and sort of at the middle of the week, we would start to come out of silence and then be able to talk and continue on. But that was the rhythm, and we did that. I did that for 4 weeks straight. There were a couple different points in that experience where I had just sort of breakthrough moments. And one was where, I was witnessing myself on the mat having these crazy physical experiences in my body where I would be full of anger, full of frustration, or full of fear, or in total ecstasy and joy, right? But nothing was actually happening. It was just me sitting inside that tent with the 40 other people. Here I was, having this very physical and emotional experience, but I was actually just thinking thoughts inside my head. And that was a light bulb moment for me. That was a huge epiphany where I realized that I was the director of my story, and that the thoughts that I was thinking, the way that I was, conjuring up these emotions were creating an experience for me, but that I was actually in control of that. I was deciding to think about that. I was deciding to spin out in anger about something that had happened in the past, or something that I was worried about in the future, right? And so I could actually be really deliberate about how I guided my thoughts, and then I could actually change my physical reality, because literally just sitting there, I was having a physical experience just based on what was going on, between my 2 ears inside my head. And I remember one day I actually broke out in laughter because it was such a release to me. And it was totally inappropriate to be laughing inside of this meditation tent. I had to take myself outside, and I just laughed hysterically for an hour, because it was this huge release of pressure coming out of my body. I was ridiculous. I was almost embarrassed by it, but I just let it get out because I realized that I had so much power within me that I had never known before. And really, that's when I realized that how I could actually start to shift my reality really, really quickly. And I had another experience where one night I went up it was my 25th birthday, and there was a bunch of girls who were in this program with me, and we went up to a mountaintop, and we actually camped out that night. You guys, I was 25, right? These are things you do when you're 25. And we did all sorts of really interesting rituals and fun things together. And one of the things that we did was we wrote down, intentions, and we wrote down things that we wanted to let go of. And we had a little campfire, and we put those things that we wanted to let go of into the campfire and let them just sort of burn away. And I remember that night I had an incredibly powerful vision or dream. And I've only shared this with a few people, so I'm going to share it with you guys now. But I had almost a being come and visit me that was almost part animal, part goddess, part angel. And she had an incredible sword. And it was she came down and just, sliced through the air and basically laid out for me all the things that I was feeling lack or frustration around inside of my life, and basically just cut through it and showed me what was possible. It was she was whispering in my ear what what was really the truth of the situation and the truth of my own abundance and the unlimited potential that was available to me if I decided to shift my energy into it, right? If I decided that that was what I was worth, if I decided that I was enough for those types of experiences, if I decided that I could actually commit to living an amazing life and having an amazing life, right? That I didn't have to live this sort of like lack-filled, scarcity-based, feeling stuck and frustrated and kind of like average experience, that I could have something incredibly rich and beautiful and abundant if I was willing to move in that direction. And it was like she laid out the path for me and I could see it, right? And it was also like with her sword, like she cut all the cords of attachment and all the ties that I had to the limited thinking and the beliefs and the thoughts and the patterns that were keeping me stuck in that, in that other reality. I remember waking up and just being like, holy moly, like that was incredible. It was this very mystical experience. I don't know how else to describe it. And I spent the rest of the day, we were doing some meditation, and part of the meditation was outside that day. And I remember I just got my journal and I got really, really clear about every single thing that I wanted to invite into my experience. And I also got really, really clear about what I was no longer willing to tolerate. And here's the deal, you guys. Anything that you ever want to create inside of your life starts with that clarity of intention. It starts with knowing and really allowing yourself to visualize it, to believe in the possibility of it enough to create that visual picture, right? To claim it for yourself, to write it down, to state it, that you are worth those things. But it takes actually getting that clarity, right? And that's the first step. And then what I realized while I was at that meditation retreat was that the second step is really about conditioning your mind, right? Conditioning your thoughts to actually believe that it's possible for you, to condition yourself to think differently, to take different actions, to make different decisions, to decide to step into a new possibility for yourself, right? And to do that on a daily basis by, the things that you're doing in your life, right? And that really was the key. So I went home from that experience, and I will tell you that it absolutely 100% changed my life. Without that experience, I'm really clear that I wouldn't have met my husband. I wouldn't have, continued on to create the career that I've created. I wouldn't have, I wouldn't be living in the house that I'm living. I wouldn't have created the wealth that I've created. I wouldn't have manifested this amazing, beautiful, abundant life that was literally in my vision and my dreamscape without knowing those things. And one of the things that I have found to be most powerful in creating your most abundant, beautiful life is really giving yourself space and time to come back and touch base with that vision, that emotional feeling of what it is that you want to create in your reality, right? Even in a future state. And what I mean by that is that when you are actually in the vision of what it is that you want and you're feeling the emotions of that, because you're thinking the thoughts, you're crafting that reality inside of your imagination as if it is already happening, what you're doing is you're actually matching up with that future frequency so that you can bring it into your now. And the reason why I write and record meditations for all of my programs, and I offer them free for, the women who come into my world, is because I know that if you can get yourself into that dream state, into that vision state of what's possible for you, and you can tap into that unlimited feeling and actually match up with that frequency, then you 100% can create it inside of your reality. And what I have found is that guided meditation, guided visualization that can take you there through the energy of music, through the power of the visuals, through the curated concepts, will actually allow you to get there way faster than if you were just trying to sit in silence and do it by yourself. Because what happens is through the meditations and the work that I do in this realm is you actually create an emotional experience. You create an energy about what's possible for you, and you can continue to tap into that energy as you go throughout your day.